Welcome to my set 4.5 new unit overview guide. In this video, I'll be taking a look at each of the 20 new units and breaking down information about all of them. We'll start off with their ultimate description, then take a look at the top 5 items you should be putting on them, and finally where you should be placing them on the board. This should give you a good sense on how to play each new unit. Brand, Ultimate Dragonfire Pillar. After a brief delay, Brand erupts the ground under the enemy with the highest current health to erupt in flames, dealing magic damage to enemies within. If an enemy is caught in the epicenter, they are stunned for a few seconds. Luden's Echo helps with the AoE splash damage. Since you probably aren't going to 3-star Brand, put in the Chalice of Power helps those next to him. Same thing with Zeke's Herald, but with attack speed instead. And since his items don't really matter anyways, throwing a Zephyr on him never hurts either. Blue buff to cast faster. Brand is a 1-cost unit, and even putting a whole bunch of items on him still doesn't make him that powerful. His main use is to be a decoy for the other Dragon Soul units. What I mean is, by frontlining, he'll die off really quick. That way the Dragon Soul buff won't accidentally fall onto him later in the fight. At the end of a fight, you want your Dragon Soul buff to be on a carry. Another option is to just throw him in a corner on the other side of all your units. So again, an assassin or someone will quickly kill him off. He's mainly used because of his traits, not for his damage. Nasus, Ultimate Wither. Nasus withers the enemy with the highest percent health, dealing magic damage over 5 seconds and slowing their attack speed and movement speed by 50% for the duration. Because Nasus is a drain tank, he gets hit a lot, so a Titan's Resolve is a great first choice. The more ability power he has, the more he can heal because he's a Siphoner, so Jeweled Gauntlet is a great item as well. The rest are just defensive items depending if your lobby has a lot of ability power or attack damage. As I mentioned, Nasus is a drain tank, which means that he's going to be hit a lot and he's going to be casting spells to heal himself. You want to put him right in the middle of all the action in the front line. Since most of the time you're going to end up 3-starring him, he's going to have enough health to last through the fight. You want to have other frontline units around him as well so he doesn't take all the damage up front. He's not a pure tank, he's more of a hybrid. He can take damage and deal it out as well. If you are able to 3-star him early enough, he will easily be able to carry you through the middle game. Later on you can add Swain and Morgana. Tristana, Ultimate Rapid Fire. Tristana excites her dragon, increasing her attack speed and dealing bonus magic damage on hit for 3 seconds. Because Tristana attacks so quickly, typically the best 2 items to put on her increase her attack speed. These would be Rageblade and Hurricane. If you are using her as a carry, it might be smart to put on a Quicksilver Sash. Hand of Justice will help her cast her ultimate faster as well as potentially healing her. Tristana is your typical no-frills AD carry, she just shoots real fast. It's important to keep in mind the fact that she is Dragon Soul, however. If you're able to position your other units in a way that she will get the Dragon Soul buff early, she can help carry your team to a win. Being a sharpshooter, she wants to stay in the backline away from all the other units. This will let her attack from range in peace. By putting her in the corners, you're able to protect her from enemy units. She will also usually be the last one to die, giving her the Dragon Soul buff at the end of the round. This will give her the extra boost she needs to kill off the rest of the enemy units. Braum, Ultimate Unbreakable. Braum puts up a shield for 4 seconds, reducing his damage taken from that direction. Since Braum is a pure tank, you want to make him as hard to kill as possible. Since he will live so long, Sunfire Cape will also do a lot of damage for your team. If you have a lot of magic damage on your team, consider using an Ionic Spark. This will help your team do more damage as Braum is lowering their magic resist of the enemy team. It can be tricky to place Braum on the board sometimes because he's a Dragon Soul. If he's the first to be attacked, then the Dragon Soul won't pass on to your carries. That's why he's shown to be on the front line and the back line. If Dragon Soul won't be an issue, you can put him on the front line and he'll absorb a lot of damage. If you want to avoid him getting hit first, however, you can put him on the second to last row in front of your sharpshooter. This way he won't sit with Dragon Soul the whole round and he can also protect your carry. If your team is full of Vanguards, make sure to frontline him and put a whole bunch of tanky units on him. Nautilus, Ultimate Impact Crater. Nautilus erupts the ground beneath his target, knocking them up, stunning them for a few seconds, and dealing magic damage. Fabled bonus. Nautilus also grants himself a shield that reduces incoming damage by 60% for 5 seconds. Nautilus is basically the same as Braum, but his ultimate is slightly offensive as a stun. Therefore you want to stack him with a bunch of armor and magic resistance. Sunfire and Dragon's Claw are a good starting point, and if you can 3-star him, a Titans will make him virtually unkillable. Just like Braum, you want to put Nautilus in the very front or put him to protect your carries in the back corners. The main difference is you don't have to worry about Dragon Soul like you do with Braum. If you're able to get the Fabled bonus with him, it reduces incoming damage by 60% for 5 seconds. That's why generally you want to keep him up front with the other vanguards like a meat shield. If you can make him tanky enough, the enemy team will be focused on him for so long that your carry will be able to kill their whole team instead. Just build him like a tank and watch the other team try to kill him. Rakan. Ultimate, Disarming Diversion. Rakan dashes to the furthest enemy within range, disarming all units he passes through for a few seconds and taunting his target. Rakan then creates a shield on himself for 4 seconds. The best way to use Rakan is to put AoE armor on him. As you can see, the Sunfire Cape will do damage as he bounces around, and the Frozen Heart will slow enemies around him. The Ionic Spark boosts his shield as well as lowering the magic resistance of enemies around him. An RFC allows him to CC the backline of the enemy team. Just like in normal league, Xayah and Rakan are a great duo. Because they're both keepers, you want to put them next to each other in your team. In order to maximize the shield they give off for their keeper buff, you want to put them on the second to back row so they can cover 3 rows of units. You also want to put them on the opposite side of the enemy carry if you can. This will help make sure that when he dashes, he'll CC that enemy carry first so your team can do their damage. Since he doesn't do much damage himself, think of him as a tank that can float around the map. I've seen many rounds where Rakan is the last unit standing but still wins because of the Sunfire damage. Vladimir. Ultimate, Transfusion. Vladimir deals magic damage to his target. All nearby allies are healed by 50% of damage dealt. The best way to use Vladimir is as a heal bot. Chalice of Power is good because you already need to put him next to your other units so he can heal them. Jeweled Gauntlet gives him more ability power to make his heals more effective. And the longer he's alive, the more he can heal, so you want to give him a Dragon's Claw and Titan's Resolve. As I mentioned, Vladimir is basically a heal bot. What that means is that he helps heal those around him by doing damage. And the units that need healing the most are those in the front line. Typically you want to put him in the middle of 2 frontline tanky units. The more he gets attacked, the faster his ultimate will charge, and the faster he will heal himself and those around him. You don't want to make him a pure tank because his healing is based on his ability power. On the other hand, you don't want to just have ability power because then he'll die too fast. So his role is to basically keep your front line alive while the back line does their damage. Darius. Ultimate, Fortune's Guillotine. Darius dunks an enemy, dealing magic damage. While dunking, Darius is unstoppable. If this kills the target, Darius immediately casts again, dealing 25% reduced damage. Jeweled Gauntlet will help give Darius the ability power he needs to one-shot people. Hextech Gunblade will help heal him between dunks. Ionic Spark will lower the magic resistance of those he's about to hit to do more damage, while Infinity Edge can increase the crit chance so he'll do more damage in one shot. Typically, Darius doesn't go on the front line because he's not a tank unit. However, if you can 3-star him and put on a Jeweled Gauntlet and a Gunblade, he becomes a healing dunk bot, and in that case you want to put him on the front line so he starts getting attacked early on. This will help build his ultimate so he can start dunking. You want to make sure to have other tanky units around him so he's not solo taking all the damage. If he's not strong enough to go on the front line, then put him in the second row. This way he won't take immediate damage, but he'll be able to build up his ultimate while not being attacked. Neeko. Ultimate, Pop Blossom. Neeko throws a seed at a random target that explodes for magic damage 3 times. Each explosion affects a bigger area than the last. Fabled bonus. The third explosion is empowered, dealing 300 magic damage instead. The combination of Jeweled Gauntlet and Infinity Edge gives Neeko's spell a 100% chance to crit. With the extra damage of Fabled, I've seen a 3-star Neeko average 10,000 damage a round. But she is squishy, so a Guardian Angel will make sure she doesn't die too soon in the round. Since Neeko is an AP carry, you want to put her in the back corners just like you would a sharpshooter. It helps that Cho'gath and Nautilus are the other 2 Fabled units because those are both tanky. You can surround her with one or both to protect her early on in the round. This will help prevent assassins from killing her before she can do her damage. It's usually a good idea to go 3-star with Neeko because it'll do 2 things. It will dramatically increase her damage, like I mentioned doing 10,000 in a round. It will also give her that extra needed health she needs because she's such a squishy unit. She can be the solo damage on a Vanguard Mystic team. Shyvana. Ultimate, Dragon's Descent. Shyvana dashes away from her current target and transforms into dragon form. While in dragon form, Shyvana gains bonus health, bonus AD, and her basic attacks become ranged attacks that deal bonus magic damage over 2 seconds on hit. Hurricane will help when she's in dragon form and dealing bonus magic damage to those around her. The Hand of Justice will help her transform earlier because of the mana, and Rage Blade will help her attack quicker over the whole round. If you'd like to backline her, you can throw on a rapid fire cannon as well. A GA will help make sure she gets to dragon form. Even though Shyvana's a brawler, she's actually a DPS at heart. You can use her as a tank for the beginning part of the round, but once she transforms, she goes full DPS. If you put her on the front lines, you want to mix her up with other units that are tanky as well, so she doesn't take all the damage at once. This will also help her get her ultimate off quicker by being attacked early on. If you already have a tanky front line and you just need her for DPS, you can throw her in the back corners. This way she can walk up to the fights and not take damage in the meantime. She's well used by being the DPS in an 8 brawler composition. Sivir. Ultimate, On the Hunt. Sivir rallies her allies within 2 hexes, granting them attack speed for 5 seconds. Sivir gains bonus attack damage for the duration. As you heard from the ultimate, Sivir helps those around her. This makes her perfect for items like Zeke's Herald and Chalice of Power. To boost her attack speed on top of her ultimate, you can give her Rage Blade or Hurricane as well. Last Whisper helps chip away at those like Vanguards with a lot of armor. She's a good utility unit. Because Sivir is best used as a utility unit for other sharpshooters, you're going to want to put her in the back line next to the corner where your actual carry is. This will make sure you get use of her ultimate as well as other items like Zeke's or Chalice of Power that you put on her. By putting her one space away from the edge, you extend the range that her ultimate spreads to the rest of the team. Think of it like a keeper buff. If on the other hand you have all your units in the front line, you want to throw her up there as well. There's no use in keeping her by herself. That extra attack speed might be the difference between you winning or losing your next round. Aurelion Sol. Ultimate, Voice of Lightning. Aurelion Sol breathes lightning in a line towards the farthest enemy, dealing magic damage and overcharging all enemies hit for 10 seconds. If an enemy is already overcharged, Aurelion Sol consumes the effect and deals 50% bonus damage. Jeweled Gauntlet will help Aurelion Sol do a lot of damage throughout the fight, and since he's doing a lot of damage, the Gunblade will help him heal up after each cast. A great way to maximize potential is to make Aurelion Sol an Elderwood unit. Obviously this works best if your team has at least 6 Elderwood. Just like any other ranged carry, you want to put Aurelion Sol in the corners of the map. This not only helps keep it safe, but also extends the range of Aurelion Sol's ultimate to go all the way across the map. It also allows you to hit the other team's carry because that will usually be in the corner as well. If possible, you want to have at least 3 mages on your team so Aurelion Sol does a double ultimate. If you do decide to play Elderwood, the general positioning will be to completely surround Aurelion Sol with Elderwood units. This will help act like a shield and give Aurelion Sol more time to cast her ultimate across the map. Cho'gath. Ultimate, Rupture. Cho'gath ruptures a large area, dealing magic damage and knocking up all enemies within for a few seconds. Fabled bonus. Cho'gath additionally knocks up all enemies on the board. Since Cho'gath's ultimate is an AoE effect that uses ability power, this will allow Morellonomicon to spread to multiple units. Adding Ionic Spark will help lower the magic resistance of the enemy and allow Cho'gath to do more damage. He's still a tank at heart though, so adding Sunfire Cape will keep him alive longer. You don't want to use Cho'gath as your main tank, but you still want to keep him near the front line. He's more of an off tank that can do a lot of damage. Cho'gath's ultimate when he has Fabled is one of the coolest ultimates in the whole game in my opinion. As we just covered, if he has Morellonomicon, he can actually give that debuff to the whole enemy team at once. By putting him in the corners, he won't be focused by the whole enemy team but just a few units. The same idea goes for the second row. The frontline tank units can take all the damage and he can sneak around to the side to build up his ultimate so he can cast. Kayle. Ultimate, Divine Ascension. Kayle ascends, causing her attacks to launch waves that deal bonus magic damage. The most important item for Kayle is the rapid fire cannon. This lets her attack from the corner the whole match. Adding Rage Blade to that will help her attacks go even faster. And just to make sure she's not interrupted, you can add a Quicksilver Sash. While Hand of Justice can either add a little bit extra damage or some healing. Again, just like any other ranged carry, you want to keep Kayle in the back corners. As I mentioned, rapid fire cannon is the most important item. This lets her sit in the corner the whole fight and not waste time walking towards units. Another good idea is to put a unit with Zeke's Herald next to Kayle. This will just keep those waves of damage coming across the whole map, but at a faster pace. Kayle is a very fragile unit, however, so you want to make sure to scout and look for assassins that can't just jump in and assassinate her right away. You want to make sure she stays alive long enough to ascend so she can start doing her bonus magic damage. Olaf. Ultimate, Ragnarok. Olaf gains attack speed, immunity to crowd control, and his attacks cleave in a cone in front of him for physical damage for the rest of combat. Hurricane is a very important item because it does the same cleave that Olaf does to an extra unit. Combining this with Deathblade will give him an extra bonus as well, and adding a rapid fire cannon on top of all that lets him attack from a distance. And if all that wasn't enough, a GA will help keep him alive. Since Olaf is a Dragon Soul, one option is to solo frontline him so he makes sure to get Dragon Soul first. This will help empower him for the rest of the round so he can do a lot of damage. Typically it's a good idea to put a GA on him first if you're going to do this. If you aren't going to go that route, then you want to do the opposite with him and kind of hide him in the corner. This will help bring out his Slayer side and begin to activate his lifesteal as he starts to be attacked. This is unless of course you have an RFC on him and then you can position more towards the backline. Giving any extra buffs like Zeke's or Sivir ult can also help him attack quicker. Tryndamere. Ultimate, Spinning Slash. Tryndamere spins in a line towards the most enemies, dealing percent of his attack damage to enemies in his path and empowering the next 3 auto attacks to deal more damage. Hand of Justice will help Tryndamere ult faster at the beginning of the round as well as potentially heal him. Since he's spinning into the other team, Guardian Angel will make sure that if he dies he can come back and clean up later. Infinity Edge will help make sure those 3 empowered auto attacks will do plenty of damage. Since Tryndamere is a melee DPS unit, you don't want to frontline him so he doesn't die right off the bat. You want to put him just behind the front line so when he does start attacking, he can then spin into the back line of the enemy team. You can kind of think of him like a kamikaze. He does a lot of damage, really fast, and he jumps into the middle of everything. That's why it's a good idea to put a GA on him so he can come back to life and do even more chaos. If you're able to put on Hand of Justice or Bloodthirster, that will let him heal while he does damage and be a decoy for the enemy carry for an even longer period of time. Xayah. Ultimate, Featherstorm. Xayah leaps into the air, becoming untargetable, invulnerable, and throwing out a fan of feather daggers, dealing percentage of her attack damage as physical damage to enemies within the cone. Xayah then recalls her feathers, striking enemies hit for magic damage per feather. Hand of Justice will not only help Xayah ult faster, but can also potentially heal her. She's also a fragile unit, so Guardian Angel will make sure she gets her off her ult at least a few times. The rest of the items are focused on helping her increase damage on her auto attacks. If you can recall from earlier, I mentioned it's a good idea to play both Xayah and Rakan together. They're both Keeper and Elderwood, while one acts for damage, the other acts for defense. So by putting Xayah and Rakan on the second to back line, it will increase the range of the Keeper buff they can give to the rest of the team. When you do this, however, you want to make sure that you have Xayah on the outside, and let Rakan be on the inside. This will let Rakan go into the rest of the team and cause chaos, while Xayah will sit back and do damage. Having her closer to the enemy team will also make sure her ult hits multiple units. Ornn. Ultimate, Stampede. Ornn summons an elemental from behind the farthest enemy to travel towards him, slowing the attack speed of enemies by 50% for a few seconds and dealing magic damage. If the elemental runs into Ornn, he headbutts it, redirects it towards another distant enemy, stunning it for 1.5 seconds and dealing magic damage. Although Ornn is a tank and Sunfire Cape will help keep him alive, you can also throw some utility items such as Redemption or Shroud on him, because you still want him to stay alive long enough to summon his ultimate. And speaking of his ultimate, adding Morellonomicon will debuff anybody it hits. Even though Braum isn't a full-on tank like Braum or Nautilus, you still want to put him up front. He's tanky enough to take some damage, and other utility items that we went over such as Redemption will still be able to be used. The extra mana from Redemption will help him cast his ultimate faster, and since he's centralized in the middle of the map, he'll be able to hit a lot of units all at once. You probably don't want to solo frontline him, but he should definitely be able to provide a very good wall if you add 1 or 2 other tanky units to the frontline with him. This combined with his ultimate CC will help your backline kill the rest of the enemy team. Samira. Ultimate, Inferno Trigger. Samira dashes and becomes unstoppable, unleashing a few shots per second at 3 enemies within 2.5 hexes for 2 seconds. Each shot does percent of her attack damage. For the duration, Samira gains 100% dodge chance. Hand of Justice will not only help Samira ultimate faster, but it can potentially heal her as she does it. Since she is a bit fragile, you want to put a Guardian Angel on her to make sure she does cast her ultimate. Giant Slayer and Last Whisper make sure she can take down tanks. She also fits really well into a Warlord's comp with a Warlord's banner. Samira isn't your typical sharpshooter. You don't want to throw her in the back corner because the main point of her is to cast her ultimate that includes the whole enemy team. If you have a good frontline, you can put her behind them on the second row so she's still protected but has access to the enemy team. If you have other sharpshooters like Sivir that have extra bonuses for their teammates, you can throw her into the backline as long as she's not blocked from going forward into the enemy team. You want to be able to put her in a place where she's safe to begin with but has access to killing the whole enemy team once her ultimate goes off. Multiple ultimates should kill the whole enemy team. Swain, Ultimate Draconic Ascension. Swain transforms into his dragon form for 6 seconds, gaining maximum health and dealing magic damage each second to enemies within a few hexes. While in dragon form, every 2 seconds Swain breathes fire in a cone in front of him, dealing magic damage, burning enemies for 25% of their maximum health as true damage over 10 seconds, and reducing healing by 50% for the duration. The main thing you want to remember about Swain is that if you put all defensive items on him, he won't do a lot of damage. On the other hand, if you only stack magic damage, he might die too fast before he gets the ultimate. Because Swain is ranged, he can attack from the second line and still do damage. The main point he wants to do is build his ultimate from a safe space. If you're building around other siphoners and happen to have Vladimir, make sure to put him behind so every time Vladimir ults, he also gets healed. The general idea is that by the time your front line starts to break down, Swain was safely able to build to his ultimate and will then start to attack those that are killing the front line. You don't want to backline him because his ultimate does damage to those around him. Keeping him close to the front will also help with his cone damage, potentially being able to reach the backline.